All right, guys, it is May 7th, 2020, and it is a beautiful day outside here in Central Florida. I hope it is where you're at. I walk outside my door this morning, and the sky is clear blue. It is very breezy and 62 degrees. I just can't imagine it being any better than that. It's just so nice. I wish I could go to Disney World or Universal Studios right now and spend the rest of my day doing that, but we can't. But hopefully, fairly soon we will. Uh, anyway, if you are somebody who normally tunes into my videos because of the bearded videos that I have, well, then let me tell you what I have in my beard today, in case you're curious. And I've been trying out this Artius Man beard butter. It's the 3-wood kind. I really like it a lot. I'm going to make a separate video all about this, so I'm not going to spend my time talking a lot about this here. Just to let you know, I do like it a lot. If you're interested in it for yourself, you can check the description box below, follow the link, and use the code, and you get 20% off, so it'll save you some money. All right, so how have you been occupying your time with the additional time off that you've been getting? You know, you probably didn't ask for this. It's probably not a vacation you're on. And it's never been more apparent by the fact that your options are much fewer. So what have you been doing to occupy your time? I decided for myself that I would pick up playing video games again. You know, I got tired of doing all the things I normally do on a daily basis. I read a lot of books, I play a lot of piano, and I just got tired of doing that. I thought I might as well utilize this time to do something I haven't done in a while. So I started, like I said, playing video games again. I have a PS4, and I like games like Sniper Elite, Splinter Cell. You know, games that have complex missions. They're very long games. Uncharted. Those are great games. No, that's what I like. But I decided to get something a little bit different. I saw one that had Pac-Man, Galaga, and Dig Dug all in one game. And I said, well, for nostalgia's sake, I'll get this and see. You know, I haven't played Pac-Man forever. You know, I remember when it came out. I think it was in 1980. I was only 10 years old, and me and the other boys would go to the local IGA down the road from us in Peru, Indiana, and we dump quarters into that after we get through delivering papers on our paper route. Or at least I had a paper route. I had two of them. And so I would deliver papers. I go to IGA, meet the other boys up there, and we'd spend a lot of time up there. We never got chased out, but man, we used to love it. And then Atari started making knockoff versions of Pac-Man. They weren't as good. And then eventually Galaga came out. And I got pretty good at Galaga when I was like, especially Galaga 88. I was like 19, 20, 21 years old. Every Sunday afternoon after church, I'd go and dump quarters down the Galaga 88 machine, the local arcade in the mall. And that would be a good distraction for me. And I just became quite proficient at it. And so I've been enjoying Galaga and Pac-Man again. And I just didn't think I would be able to. But here's what I was quickly reminded of, is that the older games are so much more frustrating. They're so stressful. And I forgot about that. The new games, they don't stress me out as much. And I've oftentimes wondered about that. You know, like, why don't I get as upset anymore, you know, when I lose, when I play these games? I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm getting older and more mature. Well, that might be a small factor, and I mean very small factor. I think what it is that the older games are just built different. You know, you basically get 3 lives, right? You get 3 lives. Even the original Mario, you get like 3 lives. And you have to be good at what you do. And you quickly learn that you've got to be so acutely aware of what's going on. And if you're not, you'll lose your lives very, very quickly. You might accrue more by earning more points, but that's very hard. And if you lose all your lives, you go back to the very beginning. That's frustrating. That's what makes you so angry, is that you have to retrace steps that you don't feel like you need to. The newer games, they have checkpoints. You get pretty much unlimited lives, and you get to start back at the point of failure or within close proximity of it. And that's a lot like life. Here's what I mean by that. I'm not a perfectionist. I wouldn't define myself as a perfectionist, but I am a perfectionist in certain things. Like when it comes to playing the piano, I pursue perfect ability. But it's very frustrating, and it's very counterproductive, actually. Very counterproductive. It retards progress, believe it or not. It really does. I mean, you have to have a fine balance when you're pursuing and developing a skill. So you have to be aware that sometimes you just need to keep on moving and just go back to the point of failure rather than going back to the beginning. And if you keep doing that in life, whether you're working on a skill or you're working on a relationship, or if you're just working at your job, if you pursue perfection, it's actually counterproductive. It actually sets you back. It retards progress, and it frustrates you to no end. And it really kind of destroys purpose and takes away fulfillment. You see, when you're a perfectionist, you never become fulfilled. You never get to the end. It just typically doesn't happen. It might in a video game, but not in real life. And what I like about the modern games is there's a lot of grace and mercy built into them by virtue of the fact that they give you checkpoints. What I want to tell you is that you may need to cut yourself some slack if you have perfectionist tendencies. Cut yourself some slack. Understand that you're going to fail. You don't always need to start back at the beginning, whatever the beginning represents to you, or however it's represented to you. So I was reading a book that I've got. It's about the year 1943, and there was a divorce announcement, I guess, in Time magazine back then about somebody who got divorced, about somebody who went through with the proceedings. And I don't know if this person was famous, and I haven't really looked them up, but there was a divorce between a man named Tommy Manville Jr. and his wife, Billy Bowes Manville. It's kind of a strange name for a girl, but he was 48 and she was 20. Now, before you mentally give Tommy Manville a high five for being 48 and she 20, understand that Tommy was he was on his sixth marriage. And they were only married 4 months before they got a divorce. And somebody must have asked Billy Bowes, why did you get married to him, given that you knew that he was married 6 other times? Here's what she said. She said, it was like a new job that somebody tells you nobody can hold. I thought I could do it where they couldn't. I thought I could do it where they couldn't. Does that resonate with you? Does that look familiar to you at all? Can you relate to that personally, or do you know somebody that has kind of maybe embraced that approach themselves? How many times have you been in a relationship and thought you could change somebody? I have found that typically women think they can change men more often than men think they can change a woman. But I will say it does go both ways. Understand that if you're in a relationship in the nascent stages, like in the first several months, maybe the first several years, and things aren't good and the red flags are popping up, understand that they probably won't get better. They usually get worse. And you need to pay attention to them. But what happens is we develop these romantic ideas that we can love somebody into changing. You just got to give them time. Or you try to take the high road and say, well, I'm going to work on this relationship and I'm going to show some grace and some mercy, like I talked about in those video games, and I'm going to give them adequate chances. You give them too many. As time goes on, it gets worse. And then before you know it, you're in a relationship that has done nothing but abuse you. It's just spread its toxicity, and you wonder why you're in it for the long haul. But you don't get out. You keep going back to it. You keep staying in the game because you're doing what I did when I played Pac-Man. Despite the fact that I had to keep starting over again because I kept messing up, right? I kept dumping quarters down there. I kept going back and I kept frustrating myself. I became addicted to it. And that's oftentimes what people do in relationships. So keep that in mind, whether you're a man or a woman. You can't change somebody. Some people have this attitude because it strokes their ego. But some people, they really feel like they're doing the right thing. Now, whether those two things are linked together, I don't know. But it really depends on the person. And so, you've got to pay attention to a person's history when you're going into a relationship, if you can find it out. But don't get me wrong. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has done something in their life that they regret and they know they shouldn't have done that really messed things up for them. So you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to make exceptions in some cases. But here's what you do. What you do is you find out where their moral baseline is at and their attitude toward their actions. If a person has regret and they're somewhat sorrowful over what they did that hurt themselves or hurt others, then you might be able to take that into account. If you can see they're actually taking steps to make things right with themselves and with you, that's one thing. But if a person is pretty much unrepentant and they don't have a good attitude about it and they don't take responsibility, they go, "Well, I don't see what I did wrong. It was just one time. It was just one time." They don't take it seriously. That's what you need to be careful about. And now, not everybody can be thrown away, but you do need to pay attention to history, and you do need to be aware. And you got to stop giving people so many chances. And understand that usually things get worse, but they can get better with people who have a good moral baseline, a good healthy attitude toward their mistakes, and a respectful attitude toward you and the direction the relationship is moving. So that's what I have to say about that. George Burns has always been one of my favorite comedians. Back in the day, I always watched the Burns and Allen show. He was a brilliant comedian, terrific one-liners. He was famous for playing a straight man to Gracie's wit and humor. Gracie was his wife. She died, I think she was 58 years old, but she was a very cute, charming little woman. She always played a ditzy blonde, but she was actually very smart, very intelligent woman. She was the brains pretty much behind all the comedy. George Burns was one of the first comedians that on camera he would turn and look at the audience to give them his reaction on something. And sometimes he would just do an aside and break away from the scene and comment on it and insert himself back into the scene. He was a brilliant comedian. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about that. You see it a lot in comedies now. You see it like in The Office, Parks and Rec, Seinfeld. You see it in a lot of comedies where they'll something funny or something weird will have been said or done, and the comedian will just turn and look at the audience, and then he'll go back to what he was doing. George Burns started all that. He was a terrific comedian. One time he said, "I must be getting absent-minded. Whenever I complain that things aren't what they used to be, I always forget to include myself." He was aging. He lived to be 100 years old. In fact, he wrote a book about how to live to be 100 years old. And it was a good book. It was funny. And but he said, I must be getting absent-minded whenever I complain that things aren't going, whenever I complain that things aren't what they used to be, I always forget to include myself. And whenever you complain about other people and you're disappointed in their failures, as we've talked about, when you're disappointed in other people's failures, remember that you have your own. You do have your own, and perhaps they're more patient with you and giving you more slack than you give yourself. So, keep that in mind. People change, things change, times change, and things just aren't what they used to be. And a lot of times that's a good thing. Sometimes you don't really need things to be as they used to be. You just need to be a little more gracious. All right. There was a man named Sean O'Casey. He was an Irish dramatist. And one time he said, it's my rule, never to lose my temper until it would be detrimental to keep it. It's my rule to never lose my temper until it would be detrimental to keep it. Is it ever right to be angry? Is it ever right to lose your temper? Well, generally we're told not to. We're told that we need to control it. And that is true. Even when you get angry, it's important to control it. There is a good time to get angry. I don't know if it's ever good to actually lose your temper. It means you've lost your grasp. But I see what he's saying here. When a grave injustice has been done and a passivity has been exercised, when it's been exercised to hopefully quell the fervor and it hasn't worked, you might need to try something different. There is a time to break your pattern and show your anger. I think you do need to control it, but there is a time to do that. Even Jesus became angry and made scourges and drove the money changers out of the temple because of how they were ripping off the people who were trying to make exchanges so they could make sacrifices. It's a good example of righteous indignation. And that's what you need to remember. Sometimes you do need to get angry, and sometimes you do need to take action because it would be detrimental not to. So Mother's Day is coming up at the end of this week. What are you doing for your mother? It's kind of hard to know what to do because it's hard to shop, you know. Either the places that are open are too crowded, or the places that you would go to find something unique you can't get to because they're not open yet. That's my problem. You know, I've got 4 kids. I'm sure they want to get something for the mother, but where do I go to get it? I'm not going to get it at Walmart. I'm not going to get her gift at Target. I'm going to get something nice, but you know, where do you go? What are you doing for your mother? My mother lives up in the mountains in Georgia. I would love to go see her, but I can't right now. And I'm sure it's even nicer there than it is here. All the pictures I ever see from up there are just splendid. So anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Hope you've gotten something out of it. If you have, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. Share it with others. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.